Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition or the new episode, of What's in Your Cup Conversations. I am your favorite life balance and confidence coach and your host, Consuela Nicole. We are in for a show today. So go ahead, come on in, grab your cup, no matter what you're sipping on. Hopefully, it's some water, some tea, heck, even some coffee. I actually just finished some coffee before we came on, but it's always a good time for coffee. We're going to dive in. I'm excited about my guest today, but you know what? Let me tell you something. We are truly living in a society, like real talk, that talk about where everybody start, and you talk about the glitz and the glam. However, it's hard to get to the glitz and the glam without the journey in between, right? So, what does that journey look like? We may all start the same and we may all end up at the same place some point in time in life. But that zigzag and that dash in the middle, baby, that's a story for your tail. I'm just saying. And we're going to talk about it because I know my journey. So, let me tell you, today has definitely been a tough day for me. I will be honest. My voice has been doing its own thing today. You guys know that I had a full thyroidectomy. It'll be a year in May. Okay. But unfortunately, it also left me with vocal paralysis because my thyroid gland had literally crushed my vocal cords. So there are days where I don't have a voice. There are some days where my voice is nice and strong. But nonetheless, I am still here and I was determined to be on with each and every one of you today, right? But I want to jump on in. Thank you very much, guys. I see everyone is chiming in. And for those of you that do not know, we are currently live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So make sure you are sharing this video with your platforms, with whomever, because this video and these shows may actually be the answers to someone else's prayers, right? Because sadly, a lot of those that are closest to you may not feel comfortable enough to talk to you about some of the issues, let's call a thing, some of the issues and the life issues that they're going through, right? But let me tell you about this person that's coming on. I am talking about none other than no. This person is an influencer first and foremost. She's an advocate. I met her as a pageant guru. And when I say pageant guru, but we're going to talk about that too. She is and has held the title for the 2010 Miss Plus America, 2015 Miss American Beauties Plus Elite, and 2020 Mrs. Curvy Globe. Those are a lot of titles. That's a lot of bling. And we're going to talk about all of that too. But most importantly, right? She has authored and is the author of Choose You, Change Your Path, and Walk in Your Purpose. We are going to talk about this book because this book is not your average book. I promise you it's not. And it's not written in the average form. Who am I talking about? I am talking about none other than my friend, my girl, my sister, Miss Tasha Mae. How
Hi.
you doing, beautiful?
Good. That was an amazing introduction. You are hired.
Yes, look. When you know who's coming on your screen, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. How are you doing today?
I'm great. As you can see, I'm kind of in my element, and this is a new thing for me because usually interviews, I'm like lights, camera, action. Where's the makeup artist? Where's the bling? Okay, what am I going to have on? But just coming into, what's in my cup, meaning who is Tasha? Who did God create me to be? I am being more and more comfortable in my natural elements, unless I have to. And so today I am presenting what's in my cup, just natural, authentic me, no makeup. I mean, yes, okay, I got a weave on, but there's only baby steps, y'all, baby steps.
Right, baby steps,
You know,
right?
and I got a little sweatsuit on and all that, and just being comfortable, and then hopefully people can be comfortable with me.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. And I love that smile. And I've always told you I love that smile. So I want to ask you this question right off the top. I know who I said Tasha Mae is, right? She's the influencer, she's the advocate, she's the pageant guru. I know she's also a mom. However, in your eyes, who is Tasha Mae?
Ooh. Now, gosh, I am sitting before you guys as a woman who I believe is so much closer to who God intended me to be, who he created me to be. And I think that can be kind of a cliche, like I want to be who God created me to be. No, I mean, like when it's kind of like when our kids are born, we have all these dreams and aspirations for them. They're going to be a doctor, and they're going to be the, honor roll student, and they're going to be perfect, and they're going to be great because they're my little kid. And then they grow up with this thing called free will, and they turn out to be something completely, you're just like, oh my gosh, who are you, gremlin? Like, I did not raise you that way, right? And
Right.
so, we have a God in heaven. I believe in God. I don't, if there's people that are watching that don't, no disrespect, but I will say that is who I believe in. That's who I look to. And I believe that he created me to be this beautiful woman inside and out. And, life's traumas, dramas, pain happen. Therefore, as a result, we sometimes don't turn out to be what God really created us to be. And so, what I
Right.
believe is that the woman that's presenting to you today is so much closer as God has been healing and dealing with me, closer to what when he was creating me in my mother's womb, when he was, thinking about me, believe it or not, when he was creating the heavens and the earth, and he was like, ooh, Tasha in 1981 is going to be this. But I believe that I am becoming closer to what that looked like. And I know that he is excited about that. I'm excited about it because it's way less stress, it's way less mess. And I can do stuff like
That
appear on
part.
camera in front of hundreds of people with no makeup on.
So let me address that for the people that's here, right? There has been times, no, I'm just put out there. There was a time Tasha would not, absolutely refuse to get in any front of anybody's camera, especially a video, right? Without a full glam team, hair, makeup, outfit, all of it had to be on point, right? Because it was all about the perception of what was going on. You have changed. I don't want to say a 360 because that's going to take you back. You have made a complete 180 from that person. Matter of fact, you have made a complete 180 from the person that I met in 2009.
Woo!
Right? So
Yes.
we're going to peel back some layers, but I got to go there. I have
Let's
to
do
go
it.
there. 2009, Monroe, Louisiana.
Where did you find those? Oh,
2009, my little town of Monroe, Louisiana.
look at us.
The first time we met.
With
Right.
my fan. That's hilarious.
With your, cause that okay, don't get me wrong, because I know I'm gonna get a lot of pushback. Monroe is actually home for my family, right? If my mother would have waited 3 more months, I would have been born in Monroe, Louisiana at St. Francis Hospital. But God told her to get up, get on the bus or the plane, however they traveled, to come all the way across the country. And I was born 3 months later in California. So I'm a West Coast girl all day long, right? But Monroe is my family home. So the humidity and all of that, I knew. But watching you with your fan, but that's not the kicker. Tasha, look at the camera in your hand. Who uses cameras like that anymore? Like, really? This
This
was
is
us.
amazing.
This is us in 2009. And
Oh my
I
God.
remember the first time we had chatted before online and different things of that nature. However, the first time I physically got to talk to you was in the hallway because you and I were the two of the first two people there. And you made a post that said, if anybody's here, I want to connect. I'm in room, yada, 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 yada. So I was being big and bad, and I went and knocked on your door. And you was like, what you want? Like, for real, you told me to come down here, lady. And we've been connected, like, for real. And I've watched the layers get piled on. I've watched the layers get peeled back. I've watched people try to chew you up and spit you out. Personally, professionally, the whole kit and caboodle. And you have seen some of the same with me, right? So looking at that picture now, what do you think about that? Like, this is this what they call humble beginnings?
Yeah, I think about actually just how prideful I actually was. I mean, I had was coming out of the beginning of a modeling career around that time. Well, a little bit earlier on, I put on some weight in between, and I'm also thinking I look so much better now. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. Um, but I was so full of pride. Like, I was like, okay, I know how to walk the catwalk. I know how to do this. I've modeled for this. I've modeled for that. Okay, I put on a little weight, but whatever. I speak proper. I'm this. I'm that. And I'll never forget being humbled going there. And I had no idea that the world was full of so many beautiful, voluptuous, well-spoken, accomplished. I mean, when we had intro night and it was like, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I have this, and I've solved world peace, and I'm, invented the cure to cancer. And by the way, I'm a size 18, 20, and I'm fabulous. I was like, so it was very humbling. I mean, even that year, I'll be honest, I did throw like a fit when I didn't even place. My first year I didn't even place. Because I was so entitled. And so what really comes to mind is just the lack of humility that year. I mean, I was outgoing and nice, and I've always been outgoing and nice my whole life. But I just had a sense of entitlement. And I was so like, I just know I got in the bag. Washington's about to make history. Like, I had this whole little attitude and perception, and I was shut down so quick. Not that anyone did it to me, but just being in the presence of those women, it was like, oh my gosh, I am not alone in this universe. Like, okay, this is wow. Only Washington where it's not cool to be like big, voluptuous, and amazing. Because apparently this is not a thing, up here. And so I was proud. I was so proud, and not proud in a good way. I had a lot of pride. And I believe that, like the Bible says, pride goes before a fall. I believe my fall was not just not placing in the top 5, but not even being called, and not just not being called in top 15. I was placed second to last in my division that year.
Okay. But you came back that following year, and that's the picture I don't have, and I should have put that one up here. That's the picture. You came back and won it all.
Oh, wait.
I remember.
Okay. And rewind, you guys. So then if that was 2009, forgive me, it was 2008 that I was Miss Prideful. My bad. So I think I was thinking about that. You met me my second year, because it took me 3 years to win Plus America.
Right.
So I think the second year I had learned. My attitude was different, but my focus was very singular. So it was like, okay, I didn't do well in interview, so let me focus on interview. And that's all I did. I still hadn't captured that it's about the total person. It's the total woman. It's not just about one aspect. And that's so transferable to life, where we see certain areas we fail in and we just want to focus on that. But really, it's about making things right in every area of our life so that there is a balance. So that whether it's 30% interview or it's 50% interview, you're going to perform the same because you're prepared and you're ready. And that's also, when you're thinking about that in life. So in that, my second year, the year you met me, I was very targeted on one thing. And the irony is I still didn't place in top 5, but I got non-finalist interviews. So what I focused on, I won.
Right. And when you came back and won your division, that was an emotional win for everybody in the room. It was, you had the entire room screaming for you, but you're so much more than a pageant girl now, right? But for the majority of your life, because you're still a young cookie, right? But the majority of your life, you've lived your life in the public eye. You've been in the public from pageantry to basketball in school, right? With your father being a minister. So you was truly in the public eye. You just could not do anything wrong, right? So they say.
Mhm.
How much did that take a toll on your life and what it is you wanted to do for you?
Well, it put me in a constant state of feeling like I was a failure, because
Okay.
everyone's expectations for me were so high in every area. I also had I also grew up in kind of a results oriented household to some degree, where it was like, hey, like if you do well, you get treated well. Like, this is what shows you're a good person is by high achievements. So oftentimes people will be frustrated because they always feel like, how come you have to always overachieve? And why are you always trying to best everybody? And I didn't know any better. Like I was like, that's how I get love. That's how I get
Right.
appreciation, by performing well. So it was never about just my existence being enough. I had to perform well to be enough. And so, with that type of narrative, I lived my life that way. So it was always like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Okay, Tasha, what are you going to do now? Okay, I'm going to do this because I need to perform. I need to be doing something to be valuable to somebody. And that's what ended up happening, where it was like, and then even when my father passed away, which although he was not the person that was telling me I had to perform, but still when he passed away, it was like the community, there was a hole in the community as well in ministry. And so people were like his oldest child, and so they're looking to me to somehow do that, like fill in that.
Right.
And I was like not there at all. Like I was not there. So it caused me to fall away from church, not necessarily God, but fall away from church, to back away from
Yeah.
things and immerse myself in other things that were not, there wasn't the pressure to be, Aaron Haskins' daughter. There wasn't the pressure to fulfill this legacy or that legacy, because I was still so broken and had so many undealt with traumas that it was just like, it was too much. And so hiding kind of became my thing. And I started hiding behind the accolades. So for me to produce something and be successful, and it's a big deal, it was my way of hiding what was really going on, and it was my way of, kind of putting a force field so people could just stop at the accomplishments and, oh, wow, Tasha's amazing. She's doing great. But I might have cried myself to sleep that night, and it was just taught to me, unfortunately, that you are what you accomplish and what you do. Just who you are is not enough.
Yeah.
And I actually had to intentionally heal to believe that me and my own existence is enough. And I didn't learn that till my late 30s.
Wow. So let me ask you this. So I'm looking at some different chapters in your book. Okay. Um, if you guys didn't see it, the book, right? Choose you, change your path, walk in your purpose. And one of the entries, because they are done as entries, if y'all don't know what I'm talking about, go purchase the book. I'm not going to give you everything. One of your entries, you talk about, do you post for validation?
Mm.
So I know what the chapter is about, right? And we're talking about, getting the validation from other people on social media, right? And that's what we're talking about, doing things for social media likes or social media, you know, we don't want to be part of the cancel culture, because cancel culture will cancel you for any and everything. Were you How far were you caught up in that posting for validation, or were you
Oh my,
back then caught up in that
like in a
posting for
black hole
validation?
abyss of it. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, my whole world, even until I would say about 2018 is really when it kind of shifted. But yeah, I was very, 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 very deeply in it, immersed in it, because when you don't have validation at home, or you're not getting it from loved ones, or you're not having it,
Mhm.
then you seek it out. Like the people who don't really post a lot, or the people that don't really do all that, are the ones who have a very fulfilling personal life. And I'm not talking about just relationships with the man or female.
Right.
I'm talking about like they have a great job they love, their kids love them, their grandkids love them, like they go on vacation. They have a great life. So you may not see them really engage in social media because they don't need social and they don't really need the media either. you know,
Right.
and so people that lack a fulfilling life and they don't have anyone to talk to, they don't have an outlet, and they're just looking for someone to respond or acknowledge them, they tend to post a lot more, you know? And then you have people that may post frequently for different reasons. Like now, I mean, not even now, I would say more so since like 2018 or so, my posts have been more directed towards, healing, my healing journey, healing out loud, being encouraging, talking about either my mission or my passion or things like that. But beforehand, oh, I'm going to get my nails done. Oh, I'm going to do this, because you're hoping someone will comment and say, oh, what did you get done? Post a picture. So like now someone
Yeah.
cares about me, now
Right.
someone's seeing me. And the desire to be seen. Social media is just a very easy platform to be seen, but the desire to be seen is inside of us. It is. And so when you don't feel seen in your home life, your spiritual life, your any other kind of life, then you will tend to look for it on the outside. And I was engrossed in that because I did not feel seen. And I still have struggled with that, being hidden in plain sight, where people only come around for what I can do, but they don't have any clue about who I am.
Who you
They
are.
don't know, when there's nothing shining, they're not there. But when there's a shine, it's, hey, can we take a picture? Can we do this? Can we do that? And so that can be very lonely. And I think
Right. Right.
people post because they want interaction, they want engagement, they want people to hear their thoughts and validate or at least listen to them.
Right. So speaking of validation and getting love from everyone, I gave you a very specific statement and asked you for a picture
Yeah.
for a time where you were to us, right, and the public eye, you looked like you were just living life to the fullest. You was on cloud nine, you was blessed, hands over fists. But on the inside,
Hmm.
it was different.
Hmm.
And this is the picture that you sent to me from the
Mhm.
Global Beauty Awards. I actually remember when you first posted this picture. And I told you then, you looked beautiful,
Hmm.
but you didn't feel that way on the inside.
Mhm.
Can you explain to us what was going through your head?
Yeah, that time was literally right after my breaking point. Um, I have been nominated for several awards because I've been able to God has blessed me to do a lot in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I basically, that was my breaking point that I start my book off with, where I talk about me standing literally on the ledge of the Tacoma Pier wanting to jump. And that had happened like a week before that event. Um, and it was really God's voice, but showing my dad saying, hey, if you do this, you're not going to be in heaven with me. You're going to go to hell if you end your own life. And I just remember not knowing if that was true or not, but I didn't want to find out. And so I just, I write about this in the book, but I text anyone I could think of and said, is it true I'm going to go to hell if I end my own life? So, of course, that started freaking people out. And one person I contacted, their husband is in the mental health industry, and they said, hey, drive down to here. He's going to get you an assessment and get you into to therapy. And that was the beginning of a 6-month leave of absence that I actually took. I was able to use my paid short-term disability that I had as a benefit from work, and just basically spent 8 to 5 at a mental health facility. I couldn't go overnight because I had kids, but that was a week before I started that process. And I remember just not wanting to go. I was devastated. And the co-producer, I told her, I said, can you just give my tickets away to somebody else? And I guess hindsight, she knew that I was winning an award. So, or I was one of the nominations I was actually going to win. I didn't know, I was like, okay, all these amazing people. I mean, it's cool to have my name picked, but like, I don't know if I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't care because I didn't even want to be alive, let alone go up and do an award. And so she just was like, just come. I know how you're feeling, but just still come. I really think it'll help. It'll make you feel better. And, and I know she meant well, but again, it was kind of like that whole narrative of an accomplishment is going to make you feel better, Tasha.
Right.
And I know that's not what she meant at all, because it's about celebrating an industry that's often scrutinized. And I
Mm-hmm.
did do a lot of work in the industry. And I got that award for best crowning moment because it was actually the moment you just talked about, Miss Plus America. And but I also remember being there and I was like very intoxicated because I was like, if I'm gonna be here, so I like drank a bunch of the wine that they had, and I was kind of just like, I'm just gonna be here. And they called my name. The people sitting next to me had to like actually tell me. They just said you won the award, and I'm like, who? They're like, you. I was like, oh, because I just literally was a little tipsy. And I'm just clapping for everybody, just like, oh, good to see you, you know. Um, and so they had to tell me. So the audience is waiting for me to get up out of my chair. They're interpreting it as shocked. I'm literally just out of it. I go up there, and of course, I don't honestly, I hate this. I don't even remember what I said. Apparently, people clapped and it was great, but I don't even remember what I said because I was so distraught. I'm sitting here like I'm holding this award. Then I had to do an interview after that. I don't remember what I said there. It's recorded somewhere. But I'm sitting here holding this award, and I just felt so empty. Like these people are cheering for me for a
Mm-hmm.
moment, but I am devastated. I just tried to in my own life a week ago. Like I don't if these people even knew, they probably wouldn't even give me an award.
Right.
But everyone else was like, congratulate, it was like all this stuff.
All the
And,
accolades.
that's a really quick segue to where, a big hit in the pageant industry happened 2 years ago. Chesley Chris,
Yeah.
our Miss USA, who was this prominent, this amazing, she was an attorney, she was beautiful, she was thin, and she had everything you could think of. And she jumped off a building. She did not feel seen. The real her wasn't seen. She was lost. She was broken. And it's like, I didn't have close to the accomplishments that she had, but I understood how it felt to stand in a room full of people and not be seen. And then when
Yeah.
you're seen, even now when people describe her, they describe all the things she did. It's clear that no one knew her.
Right.
And that is the pain that a person in the spotlight can feel. Um, so yeah, I did that award. I remember going home and looking at it. I still have it, and of course, sorry, but just looking at it and just thinking like, well, I got awarded. That's great, but I don't feel like I've won anything. you know, um, it was a very,
Well,
very dark time, believe it or not.
so, and what year, do you remember what year that was?
2018.
So 2018. We
Yeah.
are now in 2024. You started doing the work. You
Yep.
started pulling, first of all, I'm for one happy that you didn't go through with your plan on that bridge. And I remember when you first told me about it, I didn't have the words for you at that time. The only thing I could do was listen to you because I didn't know what was to be said, right? Because that was something that was cliched in the Black and brown community. We don't talk about mental health, right? You talk about mental health, you must be crazy, right? So being able to talk about it now is a beautiful thing, right? And because you were able to talk about your moments and you talked about it with me, I may not have been on a bridge, but when I had my mental breakdown and my meltdown, I was able to talk to you because you were already there. You knew what was going on and you saw it in a picture that was posted, right? You saw what you were going through in something I had posted and you were there for me. And most people don't even know I had a complete mental meltdown. So them watching this now, I'm probably gonna get fussed at after this is over. But I'm still here, y'all. I'm still here. I did. I went through a time. But I asked that question because You went through this healing journey. I'm going to go through something else in your book, but you went through this healing journey and you came back to the same system, right? And you have now been nominated for 5 awards in this system. First of all, it's the 7th annual Global Beauty Awards. You are now nominated for Best Nonprofit, Best Coach, Best in Production, the Carrie Dimiano Faith in Action Award, and the Morgan Pierce Body is a beautiful award, right? So you went from not wanting to go one year to being nominated in 5 categories to where people see you. They see Tasha Mae for the healing. Because let me tell you something about your healing. You are healing. If y'all don't know, right? And you're right, Roy, everybody needs somebody. Absolutely, right? You are doing something that most people would call you crazy for, right? You are healing out loud publicly, right? And I know when we talked about this way before, it was I lived my life publicly, so I'm a heal publicly. How does that feel knowing that you are literally putting your personal everything just out in social media land? Like you are just the good, the bad, the ugly, the
Yeah,
all
I
of
feel
it. You
like
are being judged for everything.
yeah, I feel like, it was actually really funny because my copy content editor um, had asked me about a couple things in my book. Like, are you sure you want to put the part in there when you used to come home drunk and your kids had to carry you upstairs? I said, yes. Because
Mm-hmm.
if there are people who are struggling and they don't get help, they don't tell anybody because they're afraid of condemnation, they're afraid how people are going to look at them. And just hearing that someone else went through that and this is where the process they're going in, that can give them
Mm-hmm.
hope. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm not gonna, hide anything and candy coat it and make it sound better than it is. No one's gonna tell on me better than Tasha's gonna tell on me. That's number one. And
Right.
I really believe like if I'm going to do this, and God told me to heal out loud, I would have loved to do like the celebrities do and just disappear off the planet for 2 years and then come back in a
Right.
magazine 200 pounds lighter and I was here and now I'm amazing like that. But God was like, no, because there are people that need to hear this and you're helping them have the courage. Because if you read the back of my book, it says, I'm not a therapist, I'm not any of that. But my hope is by you hearing and reading my story, because the
Mm-hmm.
Bible says that people overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of people's testimony, right?
Amen.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that if people hear my testimony and see that not that I've arrived, but that I'm making it through and I'm figuring it out, and there's no cookie cutter way. And sometimes you go back, and sometimes you go forward, sometimes you go left, sometimes you go right, that they can still do it. Then I hope it
Right.
encourages people to start their own their own journey to healing. That's what I want.
Right.
I only want it to be where you go, I can do this. Where do I find a therapist? Like or where can I
Right.
start a program? Or what can I do? And so that is all I ever wanted to do. Not diagnose nobody, not tell someone what's wrong with them, not any of that. Because I've had phases. So like in
Right.
2018, I was in a very at the time I had limited insurance. So I was getting help through a more state-led program. And they do
Okay.
the best they can, but they're very symptomatic approach, meaning like they see, oh, you're drinking. Let's just tell you chemically what's wrong with drinking and then try to give you medication and then stop. They don't deal with like the spiritual, the layers, the traumas, what the whys, the causes. They are very band-aid oriented. So that was like my first phase. And then I kind of paused for a little while. And then I found the therapy team that I'm with now. And they're like raw, they are spiritual. They are not anything against any other race, but they are Black women. Therefore, I feel like there is a little bit of relatability and they can kind of talk to me real and raw, and I can take it in a way that's helpful. And they are digging deep and they're also Christian. So they're able to speak to things from a spiritual standpoint. They're able to talk about that and I can receive that because they know that true healing ultimately is through Jesus Christ. That is God. God is doing that, right? But he
Right.
uses, just like he has gifted pastors and politicians and all these other people that we think are just the only people that God gifted, he
Mm-hmm.
has gifted doctors and therapists and all these other people. So he is using, I have therapy team that also believes in God. So they're combining their natural to his super to create a supernatural change in my life. And so now
Yeah.
we're digging deep, and I've been able to do that more over the last like year and a half of really digging deep. And that's really when I would say even post writing that book that I really started, because even at the end of my book I say this is the crescendo, meaning a high point of a song, but it doesn't mean the song is over, you
It's
know.
correct.
So
Absolutely.
the break through the first barrier was there, but I still needed to dig deep to really heal. And that extra component was the infusion of therapists and a team that would actually dig deep, but also infusing God into that, because he created me. So he's going to know how it's supposed to look. Before all the junk and the mess, I know how I set this up. So,
Right.
I'm going to know if everything's gone. It's like getting it's like getting a heart root canal. Like the doctor knows, okay, there's still stuff in there, which I recently had to have one of those.
Right.
I know if they're still black, I know I got to work more. I know I got to dig out more. And
Okay.
only a dentist, only the person who designed a tooth would know that. And so having that combo has just been powerful for me.
Right. So I'm a. Yep. We not even using proper like English right now. There's something else I want to dig into, because I know this is the story for many women, right? No matter what their race, religion, creed, whatever. For women, we tend to want to jump into a relationship before we're healed, right? And there's a quote in your. I'm gonna read from your book. I told you we going back to the book. Um, all I wanted to do was have a family and a loving husband. I had no idea that finding that had everything to do with me finding and loving myself.
Mm.
I want you to think about that. But before you answer, the reason I brought that up, right, is because you ruffled some feathers probably last week. I think it was last week. You ruffled some feathers and posted something online, right? I'm gonna show a snippet of it, and I'm like, I'm gonna need her to get out of my head. But then I realized it was something that is probably in the heads of a lot of women, right? So I'm only gonna play a snippet, but I want people to
Okay,
go
guys.
in and
Okay.
find it.
So I've been sitting over here thinking, like, Lord, I don't want to do this thing called life by myself. Like, I don't want to do it. I want a companion. I want a life
Mhm.
partner. I want someone to thrive in ministry with, thrive in community with. Like, nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, two are better than one. God created Eve for Adam. But then during my fast last week, God is awesome because he likes us to participate in solution finding, right?
Yeah.
And so he started posing some questions to me that I just didn't really think about. So he said, Tasha, okay, so let's say I have this amazing man of God who is community driven. He's not intimidated by you. He thinks you're amazing. He's like, yeah. And then you're like, yeah. And he's great. But that's all great. But would you want that perfect for you, man, to be exposed to how you're living day to day right now? Would you like him to see how you keep your home? The fact that you order DoorDash every day instead of actually cook a real meal. You drop your clothes on your way in the door, leaving a trail versus hanging everything up and just keeping your home decently and in order.
So I'm gonna stop that. So I'm gonna need you guys to go follow Tasha on Facebook or TikTok because it's there, and watch the entire video because you went in about not cooking a home cooked meal, right? Using DoorDash, looking at your credit, looking at your finances. Would you feed God what you feed yourself, right? On your wedding night, do you want your husband to see what you looking at in the mirror? So you started doing, and the answer to all of that was a flat out no. I mean, you, I was like, did she just? She didn't just busted the bubble of so many women, and they kind of threw away the cliche of, well, two broke people or two broken people can heal together. You kind of threw that cliche away. Like, I can't, you can't fill a void that I have until I fill it myself.
Mm.
How much pushback did you get for posting that video, or did you get a pushback? Because I need everybody else to go watch it, because
Yeah,
there was some
so
stuff you said in that video, like for real.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I got majority positive feedback. That people were just kind of like, "Why are you all in my mailbox like that? Like, why you all up in my car in my room like that? Like, how do you know
Right,
if I can cook or not? You know, whatever." And I'm just like, "No, I'm just talking about me, okay?" But I mean,
right,
I could tell that it was more, you know, I thought it was more comedy. But the people that kind of did, they were more like inboxing me. They didn't do it comment. They didn't public. But they were just like, but I really believe that if you find the right guy, that he can help you grow and he can help you do these things. I'm like, help you clean up your room and wash your clothes. I'm like, I'm talking about like just practical day to day. I'm not talking about you guys growing in
right,
Jesus together, okay? I'm not talking about like, oh, you guys have aspirations to start a big business and maybe that's better that you guys do together. I didn't say any of that. I'm talking about day to day. So say some people were kind of trying to glaze over that,
right.
and I'm sitting here like, if Jesus knocked on your door right now and you got to be like, hold on, and try to stuff under your car, clear out, figure out what you're going to do
That ain't
or
gonna
whatever
work.
it may be, or you are being courted by a good man. And he's like, hey, my car is, in the shop right now. Do you think you can pick me up for church, sis? And you're like, oh my God, I looks like a whole entire thing exploded. I got 8 bags of Carl's Jr. and Dick's barbecue in my back. And oh my, like, you're just like, I've done that before where I've literally stuffed everything from my car into my trunk. And I'm like sweeping off, wiping stuff off, stopping to get baby wipes to wipe my seat off. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and this dude just needed a ride from, like, it could have been a guy from work, just any, not even someone I liked. But it was like literally, and it's not even about just being like dirty. It's about the fact that like we're operating in this space. And it's like, but what does it mean to share that space with someone? Like, what does that mean? Do you want to walk into that? Do you want to walk into a space with a guy who has pee all around the seat because you can't keep it straight and you got this going on over here, that going on over there, and you're like, okay, I don't want to, if I marry this dude, we got to live together? No.
Right.
This dude
Okay.
has so many, like things like that. So just really, it's not about you can't grow with somebody, but for me specifically, Consuela, it was like, I'm not ready because all those things are going to be a part of this whole marriage thing, and I ain't ready to do all that. Like
Right. And she said that, y'all, in the video. At the end of the video, it says, I'm not ready. But y'all want to go watch the video for yourself. Please go watch the video. Before I let you go, though, and there is so much more, so I know I'm going to have to bring you back. But one of the last quotes in your book that I wanted to talk about is under the walk portion, right? And it's something that I even caught myself saying earlier this week, right? Oh, I want to be like you when I grow up, right? And that's because we see the right now of a person. But you have a chapter or entry in your book that says, you think you want my glory, but you don't know my story. And I feel that if people truly knew, right, the journey you had to go through to get to where you are, would they really, self-included, right, continue to make those statements? Because we may see the right now, we may see, to us it looked like the perfect marriage, but we don't really know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know how many marriages you had to get to before you got to that good marriage, right? We don't know the hurt and the trauma that you had to go through. How does that make you feel when you hear people? Because I know they tell you now, oh, your life is perfect. I wish, I'm trying to be like you. How does that make you feel when people say that?
I immediately cut it because my biggest thing is, I like to often talk about, matter of fact, my therapist and I have been comparing my life to the story of Joseph in a lot of ways. Because
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Before you answer, this comment just popped up. We were talking
Malcolm's
about
gonna be
being
pointing his
ready,
ads everywhere. Okay, that's hilarious.
being ready for your partner. So
I'm dead. He's like, I know it comes every month, but I don't need to see it. Okay, I
I
got
don't need to see it. Right. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's
Go
hilarious.
ahead.
But I mean, that's real talk, though. I mean,
Yeah.
but um, I now I stop it. Before it was like, oh, but now I'm like, oh no. I said I like to talk about the story of Joseph. And for those of you guys who don't
Okay.
know about Joseph, right, where God had a major call in his life, he was definitely favored of his father, but his father loved all of his sons. And Joseph, God was giving him these dreams that were telling him like what he was going to be doing, which involved a lot of power, involved a lot of influence. And he was so excited. He would get up and tell his brothers every day, and God did this, and God did that, and he's going to do this, and he's going to do that, and that. So not only was he an annoying little brother, it was like, bruh, like, you're acting like you're about to be running the show. Do you not know how hard we work? Do you know who we are? And, I'll pause there because I deal with that. Like when as
Okay.
being fully submitted to God, I'm going to say it officially since December 11th. Now, y'all, yes, I've been saved since I was 15, but I haven't always been saved since I've been saved. Let that sink in.
Let that
Okay.
sit in. Right.
I heard that from Mrs. Witherspoon, who is a first lady here in Seattle, and she said that. I was like, that's word right there. And I was telling someone else today that it's the difference between weaving in God versus making him the center of something. So he is the center of my life, and since that decision has been made, it's a whole different like paradigm shift, right? So I was sitting
Mhm.
there, thinking about the whole Joseph thing, right? And I've been like that. Oh my gosh, since December 11th, God's been doing this, God's been doing that. There's very few people I realized, because there were some people who actually told me I don't have the capacity for all that. Like, whoa, okay. I can't tell my dreams to
Mhm.
you. I can't tell what God's happening, and God's been doing so much. It's been overwhelming. Like when he says he wants to do exceedingly abundantly above all we could ever ask, think, or imagine, you guys know this much. Just like you knew this much of my pain, you know this much of the power and what God is doing in my life. It's ridiculous
Yeah.
how huge it is. Okay. So I've been like, but I've realized some people just don't want to hear that excitement. Oh, good. God's blessing you. Amen. It's eventually they're kind of like over it. So like with
Yeah.
Joseph, right? He got, he's doing all that, and to a point where they were plotting his death. Like we're doing this. We're over. We're gonna pretend like he's dead. Threw him in a pit, sold him away. Okay, he went through slavery, he went through abandonment, he went through people playing him off for dead. He was lied on. They said he was a rapist. He went to prison. He was treated like crap. But his gift was still there. And eventually God made room for his gift. And ultimately, if you know the story, if you know the story in the Bible, he became second in command of Egypt. And it got to a
Right.
point where when everyone was starving in the land, his brothers that threw him in a pit many years before actually had to come and ask for help, not even knowing it was him. And that is a very good example of you want my glory. You see me as second in command to Egypt, but you have no idea that, Jesus, that my own family threw me in a pit and left me to die, that
Right.
they abandoned me, that they didn't like me, that they rejected me. You don't know that I was in prison and I had to work like a slave, and I was lied on and I was put in prison for it, and I was mistreated and I was used and I was abused. You have no idea. And all you see is a second in command to Egypt, right? So
Right.
that is what I say. And I say, honey, trust me. You don't want to be the 5-year-old girl who was molested over and over again by an uncle and cousins to have the story I have. You don't want to have the girl that her had a triple tragedy in less than 2 years. Her grandfather, father, brother, and then pastor die. You don't want to have that story. You don't want to have the story of never being good enough to a person that you idolized and you just wanted their acceptance. You don't want that story. You don't want the story of having 3 kids by 3 different fathers who all of them were abusive to you. All of them didn't mistreat you. None of them were the husband that you dreamed of. You don't want that story. So trust me when I tell you, I don't know. We all have a story. So when you see a
Right.
person operating in their second in command of Egypt, okay, as a parallel here and the analogy, you need to understand that there was a betrayal season. There was a Leave for Dead season. There was a pit season. There was a slavery season. There was a being sold as a slave season. There was a mistreatment season. There was a lie and accuse season. There was a prison season. There was all of that. There was a use you for your gift and throw you back in prison season before you even got elevated to second in command to Egypt.
Right. Right.
So,
So
there that wow, anyway, amen.
right. Right. So we're gonna bring this back, and we're not gonna do this. We eyeballs are not gonna sweat. But and I know, like I said, we can go on, but there is one last thing I really want to talk about and bring to the public eye for those that do not know. In 2023, you launched your nonprofit, right? Advocacy Queen, because you a queen in many ways, right? You are. So I want you to tell us about Advocacy Queen, and then I want you to tell us about the experience that's coming up in 2025.
Yes. So AQ, Advocacy Queen. It's funny because people kept calling me that, and that's really where that name came from. And I was lucky, and there was no trademarks, and there was no net. All of it was available. But where that birthed from is the reason why I even got really involved in pageantry is because I wanted a voice for the things I was passionate about. So my very first platform was actually single parents achieving confidence and excellence. I don't know if you remember that, Consuela.
Mm-hmm.
And my first TV interview, that's what I was talking about, is wanting to inspire parents, single parents, to have confidence to get off of the welfare system, to get out of the cycle of poverty. And me being Tasha walking down the street didn't get opportunities, but me being Tasha, Miss Plus America, oh my gosh, it was like, yeah, can you come speak to our group? And can you come do this? And come. So I realized the power, the key, that it was, the crown was a key for me. It always has been. My passion from the very beginning has been to help people. I've been doing this since I was in 6th grade. Whether you were a kid that took the chocolate milk off of someone else's tray, I would walk over there and say, that is not yours. You need to put that back. You were wrong. I've been an advocate from 6th grade, right?
Right.
And so, so the passion of the queen concept, right? And also thinking about the fact that, I love the very first pageant in history is found in the book of Esther. Okay. And I think about Esther, who was groomed for years and went through a process to ultimately become, be the most beautiful woman, and the king would choose her. And what happened is these women would prepare and then parade a pageant in their most beautiful garments. Their skin had been bathed in milk for months and all this different stuff to be picked by the king to be the queen. Now, her mission was not even about being a queen. So people don't understand that the actual queen, them sitting on a cute little throne is of this much of it. The queen is a liaison between the people and the king. The queen is the one who goes out amongst the people and goes out amongst the peasants and the pilgrims and everybody else that live in the city to find out what they need, and then brings those petitions to the king. So they're actually a worker. It's America, it's Western society that's glamorized what a queen really is, but queens were the petition and advocate for the people. And this is what I say in my coaching when I'm coaching women about connecting in pageantry. And so anyway, in the story, she ends up being picked as the queen, but then she finds out that there's a mandate to kill all of her people, her entire race. It's like me being a queen or the first lady of the United States, and I find out they're about to kill every single Black person by mass genocide. Okay. And that may or may not have already been a thing, but I'm just saying. So I have, as a queen, have the power to go to the king and say, you have to stop this. This is who's doing it. Now, the rule with Esther back then, not with just her, was that if the king doesn't ask you to come in, you don't go, or he can cut your head off. And her words before going in that's where it says, if I know I'm supposed to be, this is what I know I'm supposed to be doing. So she goes in, he's thrilled because he thinks she's amazing and beautiful. Yes, what can I do? And she tells him what's going on. He's like, what? And she saves an entire race of people. That was her role. So when I put advocacy and queen together, they're actually one and the same, right? AQ is one and the same. That's what we are as queens. We are supposed to be advocates for the people. But the organization itself, our tagline is because people need help getting help. There are just so many systems and cycles and organizations and stuff that make it hard for people to get help. I mean, all of us have been touched by this. Money can't, there's no matter how much money you have, your family eventually is going to deal with Social Security. They're additionally eventually going to deal with Medicare. They're eventually going to deal with all these different organizations. And all they do is give you the runaround, red tape. There's case management negligence. There's no phone calls back. This is happening. That's happening. And then our vulnerable adults, our historically minoritized individuals, those who don't have access to opportunity are suffering the most. So the advocacy queen exists to be able to step in those places to help individuals navigate those situations, but then also coach you how to advocate for yourself. So one of the events we're going to be doing is the Choose You conference. That comes from my book, Choose You, Change Your Path, Walk in Your Purpose. That conference is going to be a mental health and empowerment conference, because for you to advocate for yourself, you first have to advocate for yourself to yourself by choosing yourself. Okay. And so that is a base of having a firm foundation. Another flyer you don't have up there, but I'm going to be launching my advocacy self-defense course, which is really going to be the core of Advocacy Queen, where we're going to be coaching people how to advocate for themselves, what you do when you're coming up against the gatekeeper, how to look up legislation, how to look up things that validate you and what your rights are and what you want to do, how to know what your elevator speech is when you walk into that pruny lady that's the office that wants to tell you, oh, we don't have no appointments, how you know how to advocate for yourself. So all of those things of educating people. So I'm very excited to use, I guess my experience, my lived experience, 22 years in different systems as a single mom, as well as my influence, having been a multi-beauty pageant winner and working in community, to be able to empower, coach, and equip other people.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So if you guys, missed any of that, make sure you go to the website, advocacyqueen.org. And I say that because I know you compacted all of that into a small statement, right? But you are changing lives one day at a time all across the state of Washington, right? And I know this is growing further than the state of Washington. This is just the beginning foundation. So make sure you guys go to the website, advocacyqueen.org. You're able to check out the events that she has coming up. You're able to donate. It is a nonprofit agency, guys. And as you all know, nonprofits, they run off of donations, right? So make sure you donate. Everything counts. Tasha, before we end, if they don't hear nothing else from you, what is the one thing you want to make sure that they take away from this conversation today?
The full statement that my book title comes from was a mantra that I coined for myself during the beginning of my healing journey in 2018. And that it was the beginning part, and my editor told me it was too long. That's why it's not on there. But that it's never too late to choose you, change your path, and walk in your purpose. And what I want you to take away is, I don't care. I mean, I'm turning 43 in 48 hours. Okay. Like I feel I feel like I'm like, oh my God, I'm old, and all this different stuff, but it's never too late to decide you're going to choose you. And by choosing you, okay, for all you religious people out there, that's actually choosing him, because by choosing him, your whole entire life is going to change. Right? And he becomes the center of everything. And then your life from there is going to, all the different things you dreamed of and everything else, he's going to just blow up for you in a positive way. So the biggest thing that I want to share with you guys, it's never too late. Don't think your time is, don't think your time is past. Don't think you're too old. Don't think you've made too many mistakes. Don't think any of that. You need to look at the story of Paul, who used to kill Christians for a living. And just in one trip to Damascus, God completely changed his life. And he spent the rest of his years saving people for Jesus rather than killing them because of Jesus, right? His whole life was changed, and he had a horrible past, but God still used him. So I just want you to take away that it's never too late. Never, ever, ever too late to choose you, change your path, and walk in God's divine purpose. Amen.
All right, guys, you heard it here. You heard it from her lips to your ears. Choose you, change your path, walk in your purpose. Miss Tasha Mae, I appreciate you. I know we have definitely went over, but when God is in the room working, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Everything you said needed to be heard. It needed to be felt. You wasn't supposed to make my eyeballs sweat, but it is what it is. Right? I appreciate you. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of What's in Your Cup conversation with my guest, Tasha Mae. And make sure you tune in 2 weeks. I have another special guest for you. I know it's going to be a love season. It's all about love and Valentine's, but we are still talking about loving on you because you can also be your own Valentine. Until next time, guys, I love you for life and there's nothing you can do about it. Bye.